The sun was setting over the small village, casting a warm orange glow over the thatched roofs of the houses. The air was crisp and cold, carrying the scent of wood smoke and baking bread. In a small cottage on the edge of the village, a young man named Taro was sitting by the fire, watching the flames dance and listening to the crackle of the wood. He was a gentle soul, with a kind face and a warm smile. Outside, the snow was falling softly, covering the ground in a thick layer of white. The trees were heavy with the weight of the snow, their branches bending under the burden. The sound of the snowfall was like a gentle whisper, a soothing melody that seemed to lull the world to sleep. Taro's wife, Imiko, was sitting next to him, her hands busy with a piece of embroidery. She was a skilled needlewoman, and her stitches were small and even. As she worked, she chatted softly to Taro, telling him about her day and the things she had seen in the village. As the evening wore on, the room grew quieter, the only sound the crackle of the fire and the soft hum of Imiko's voice. Taro closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of the fire on his face and the softness of Imiko's hand on his arm. He was a happy man, content in his simple life and the love of his wife. But as he sat there, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was outside, watching them. He opened his eyes and looked out the window, but all he saw was the snow, falling softly in the darkness. Imiko noticed his gaze and followed it to the window. "What is it, Taro?" she asked, her voice soft with concern. Taro hesitated, not wanting to worry her. "Nothing," he said finally. "Just the snow. It's so peaceful." Imiko smiled and nodded, her eyes returning to her embroidery. But Taro's feeling of being watched lingered, a faint sense of unease that he couldn't shake. As the night wore on, the fire burned low, casting flickering shadows on the walls. The room grew cooler, the air filled with the scent of snow and wood smoke. Taro and Imiko sat together in comfortable silence, the only sound the soft crackle of the fire and the gentle whisper of the snow outside. It was a peaceful scene, a moment of perfect calm in the midst of winter's chill. But as the darkness deepened, Taro's sense of unease grew, a feeling that something was waiting just outside, watching them with cold and gentle eyes. The snow fell softly, covering the village in a thick layer of white. The trees creaked and swayed, their branches heavy with the weight of the snow. The world was hushed and still, a peaceful landscape of snow and darkness. And in the midst of it all, Taro and Imiko sat together, waiting for the dawn, unaware of the visitor who was to come, a woman as cold and gentle as the snow itself. The hours passed slowly, the fire burning low, the room growing cooler. Taro and Imiko sat together, their eyes half closed, their breathing slow. The snow outside seemed to be falling in time with their hearts, a gentle rhythm that filled the air. As the night wore on, the silence between them grew, a comfortable stillness that needed no words. Imiko's embroidery lay forgotten in her lap, her hands resting on the soft fabric. Taro's eyes drifted to the window, his gaze drawn to the darkness outside. He felt the presence again, a sense of being watched, but it was no longer unsettling. Instead, it seemed almost too familiar. Just as Taro was starting to relax, a faint knock came at the door. It was a soft sound, almost hesitant, as if the visitor was unsure of being welcome. Emiko's eyes opened, and she looked at Taro, a question in her gaze. Taro rose from his seat, his movements slow and deliberate. He walked to the door, his footsteps quiet on the wooden floor. As he opened the door, a cold breeze swept in, carrying the scent of snow and winter air. A woman stood in the doorway, her face pale and serene. Her hair was white, like the snow, and it fell to her shoulders in soft waves. Her eyes were gentle, with a deep kindness that seemed to warm the air around her. "May I come in?" she asked, her voice soft as the snow. Taro stepped aside, allowing her to enter. The woman's eyes adjusted to the warm light of the fire, and she smiled, a gentle smile that seemed to light up the room. Emiko rose from her seat, her hands extended in welcome. "Please, come in," she said. "We were just sitting by the fire. Would you like to join us?" The woman nodded, her eyes never leaving Emiko's face. As she sat down, Taro noticed that she was carrying a small basket, woven from bamboo and filled with strange and exotic herbs. The scent of the herbs filled the air, a sweet and earthy smell that seemed to calm the senses. The woman introduced herself as Yumi, a traveler from a distant village. She had been walking for days, she said, and had seen the light of the fire from afar. She was drawn to the warmth and the peace of the cottage, and had come to seek refuge from the cold. Emiko smiled, her eyes warm with kindness. "You are welcome here," she said. "We will share what little we have." As they sat together, Yumi began to tell stories of her journey, of the mountains and the forests she had crossed. Her voice was soft and melodious, like the sound of a stream flowing through the countryside. Taro and Emiko listened, entranced, their eyes fixed on her face. The fire crackled and spat, casting shadows on the walls, but the room seemed to grow warmer, the air filled with a sense of peace and tranquility. As the night wore on, Yumi's stories grew more fantastical, filled with tales of magic and wonder. She spoke of the spirits that lived in the mountains, of the ancient trees that held the secrets of the forest. Her words were like a gentle breeze, soothing and calming, and Taro and Emiko felt their eyelids growing heavy, their breathing slow. The snow outside seemed to be falling in time with their hearts, a gentle rhythm that filled the air. And as they sat together, listening to Yumi's stories, they felt a sense of peace wash over them, a sense of being in a place where time stood still. The world outside receded, and all that was left was the warmth of the fire, the softness of the darkness, and the gentle sound of Yumi's voice. The fire crackled softly, casting a warm glow over the room. Yumi's voice grew quieter, her words slower, as if she too felt the peacefulness of the moment. Taro and Emiko sat with their eyes closed, their faces relaxed, their breathing deep. The snow outside seemed to be falling in perfect harmony with their hearts, a gentle rhythm that filled the air. As Yumi finished her last story, the room fell silent. The only sound was the soft crackling of the fire, the gentle hum of the wind outside, and the quiet breathing of the three people sitting together. Emiko opened her eyes, a soft smile on her face. She looked at Yumi, and then at Taro, her eyes filled with warmth and kindness. Yumi smiled back, her eyes gentle, her face serene. Taro's eyes were still closed, his face peaceful, his chest rising and falling with each breath. The room was warm and cozy, filled with the scent of the fire, the herbs, and the softness of the darkness. Emiko rose from her seat, her movements slow and quiet. She walked to the window and looked out into the night. The snow was falling gently, casting a soft blanket over the landscape. The trees were quiet, their branches still, their leaves frozen in time. The world outside seemed to be frozen, suspended in a moment of perfect peace. Emiko felt a sense of wonder, a sense of magic, as if the world had come to a standstill just for this moment. She turned back to the room, her eyes adjusting to the warm light of the fire. Yumi was watching her, a soft smile on her face. Taro was still sitting, his eyes closed, his face peaceful. Emiko smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude, a sense of love. She walked back to her seat and sat down, her hands folded in her lap. The room was quiet, the only sound the soft crackling of the fire. As the night wore on, the silence deepened. The fire burned low, casting a soft glow over the room. Yumi's eyes grew heavy, her head nodding forward. Emiko's eyes closed, her breathing slow. Taro's chest rose and fell, his face peaceful. The room was still, the only sound the quiet breathing of the three people sitting together. The snow outside continued to fall, casting a soft blanket over the landscape. The world outside receded, and all that was left was the warmth of the fire, the softness of the darkness, and the gentle sound of quiet breathing. The darkness deepened, the silence grew thicker. The fire burned out, leaving only a soft glow of embers. The room was quiet, the only sound the gentle hum of the night. Emiko's eyes were closed, her face peaceful. Yumi's head was nodding forward, her breathing slow. Taro's chest rose and fell, his face serene. The snow outside stopped falling, leaving a soft blanket of quiet over the landscape. The world was still, the only sound the gentle beating of hearts. And in this peaceful moment, the three people sitting together felt their souls grow calm, their hearts grow quiet, their minds grow still. The night wore on, the darkness deepened, and the silence grew thicker. And in this quiet, peaceful moment, they slept.